वो पाक हम सब का हबीब आका हमारे रिसालत है जिसकी तमन्ना
Thank you very much.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن الناس من يعجبك قوله في الحياة الدنيا ويشهد الله على ما في قلبه وهو على الله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. The verses just recited before you are from chapter 2 and chapter 5 of the Holy Quran. The English translation is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed, in the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. And of men, there is he whose talk on this life would please thee, and he would call Allah to witness as to that which is in his heart. And yet, he is the most contentious of quarrels. And when he is in authority, he runs about in the land to create disorder. He runs about in the land to create disorder in it, and destroy the crops and the progeny of man. And Allah loves not the disorder. O ye who believe, be steadfast in the cause of Allah, bearing witness in equity, and let not a people's enmity incite you to act otherwise than with justice. Be always just. That is nearer to righteousness. And fear Allah, surely Allah is aware of what you do.
Thank you very much, Rahid Ahmed. Rahid Ahmed is a passionate young Imam, currently serving in the history department of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community UK. Thank you very much, Rahid, for your beautiful recitation. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have some eminent faith leaders among us. Rose Ponder, Paul Howland are representing Christianity. Venerable Pina Laboda, Nana Luka, Buddhism. Respectable Sarva Kumara Raja, Hinduism. Respected Charan Singh Ji, Sikhism, and Imam Raza Ahmed would be representing the Islam Ahmadiyya in today's short but very powerful speeches, I hope. And we are very honored to have Marsha Di Cordova, our MP for Battersea, among us. And despite her so many commitments, I'm very thankful that you have taken some time for this meeting. Without any long stories, I'm just hoping that this evening will prove to be inspiring and very special evening of yours. We will largely talk about peace and ways to bring inner peace, peace in our community, and world peace in total. I would like to invite Mr. Abdul Basit, who is one of our main initiators and organizers of today's gathering, to give the welcome remarks and brief introduction of today's Interfaith conference and Eid Dinner. Mr. Abdul Basit.
Thank you very much to our respected guests and speakers for arriving here today. We are very much looking forward to the event. We are the Ahmadiyya Muslim Elders Association. That is an auxiliary organization of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community for men aged 40 and over. The Ahmadiyya movement in Islam was founded by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam in 1889, who proclaimed to be the promised Messiah of the later days. Since its inception, the community has strived tirelessly to present the true interpretation of Islam, the message of peace, uniting communities with the motto, love for all, hatred for none, as you can see in the backdrop as well. As you all know, after the holy month of Ramadan, Muslims celebrate Eid, and it striked our mind to take initiative and celebrate this Eid together with our neighbors in a meaningful way to contribute and advocate towards peace, tolerance, and love as well. As of now, there is world unrest, where the world is on the verge of World War III. So we are making a subtle effort to promote peace and tolerance in our society that would lead to world peace if we are harmonize our efforts. If we harmonize our efforts, that will lead to the peace in the world, of course. With this brief prologue, I want to mention that we have among us, as my friend Mr. Ehsan has already mentioned, that we have Anglican Church, Hindu, Sikh, and Buddhist religions, and from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community as well. So we are very thankful to all of our guest speakers who have taken their time out to join us here today. Also, as we have already mentioned, that we have honored to have our MP of Battersea, Honorable Marsha Di Cordova, who has graced our event despite a very busy schedule, and we look forward to hear her views on the importance of such community events and world crisis and the pathway to peace as well. So lastly, I would like to share some general information as well that will be helpful. So ladies and gents toilets are on the left side if you exit the hall. Emergency exit is this side and that side as well. We have another small hall at the end of the corridor. If we go out of the hall, we have another hall where
Truth, hospitality, service, compassion, forgiveness, and redemption. Please welcome Mr. Rose Ponder.
The older he grew, the more his heart was in anguish over the tribes around him warring with one another. Unable to bear the violence any longer, he packed up his belongings and climbed up Makra Peak to wait for the fighting to stop. Upon reaching the height of the mountain, he was surprised to find two other men at the top, one a middle-aged man and the other very elderly.
In the forgotten by conflict on world. He set out to build a community of men and women devoted to God and filled with a sense of love, equality, and mutual respect, because God's language is love to all creatures. He described the dangers of ego, falsehood, hypocrisy, and called upon the people to engage in worship to the name of God, emphasizing family life based on honest conduct, selfless service, and constant devotion. He denounced the causes of damage.
It's great to have so many of you here this evening. I want to say a very special thanks to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Elder Women's Association for not only inviting me to be part of this evening's conference, but I've been the MP for Battersea for nearly 5 years. Who can believe time's gone past so fast? But this community has always been supporting me and have supported me from day one. So can I say a massive thank you for inviting me. Now, you know, this conference takes place in what I would call quite a historic week for us here in Wandsworth, because we had some local elections here on Thursday, and I'm pleased to say that after 44 years, Labour actually won control of Wandsworth Council. So I'm incredibly pleased to be able to share that wonderful news with you all. So it's quite historic. But I would also say events like this also have a special moment, and they're also quite historic, because to have a conference that is interfaith and to have all groups and different faiths represented in one room is quite something. And so can I say a very warm welcome to all of you as well. And I know the words that you all share, there will be this golden thread from each and every speaker when we talk about peace. Now I have to also say, isn't it great to be in a room together? Finally, after 2 long years of a pandemic where many of us were unable to meet, and we were all having to do things virtually or outside. So it is also wonderful that we're able to meet in this room together, and you're also going to be able to break bread together as well. But you know, the theme of today's conference, it is about conflict, but also that pathway to peace. And if it's one thing we all know, is that peace is possible, and we should remain hopeful in that. And I say that because during this pandemic, I watched communities here in Battersea, across London, and frankly across the world, coming together to fight that health pandemic of coronavirus. And so in all of that, we know that we can come together. But as a people, we face a global health pandemic, we face a racial justice pandemic, and we also face an economic crisis as well. And on top of that, there are so many conflicts. And throughout time, we've seen conflicts in Syria, more recently in Afghanistan, in Palestine, and more recently in the Ukraine. And how we bring about peace both in our communities, also in our homes, but globally, it's about how we can come together, because we know that we have so much in common. In fact, we have more in common than what divides us. And I say that because here tonight, again, we are represented by so many different groups. And it really is about how do we come together as a people to bring about peace. And that, I believe, that starts in our own communities. And as the community champion and leader for Battersea, for me it's about bringing everybody together. You know, even when we can do it across party political lines, because again, it's about building community, but also building those foundational values of not just peace, but also of justice, and also of inclusion, as well as equality. And I spent a long period of time leading on equalities in my shadow ministerial role, and it is fundamental to our foundations as a community, but also as a people. So you have my support, as you all know, and you have my support and solidarity as we come together and talk about pathways to peace. As a woman of faith, I'm very much anchored in my faith, and the Bible that I study and read talks about justice and it talks about peace. And those two things really go hand in hand when it comes to coming up with strategies and approaches to how we deliver that. But for me, I strongly believe it starts in our own homes and it starts in our communities. And it's how we influence leaders across our communities and across the world to bring about peace. Because if we are not going to do that, we can end up in what could be catastrophic circumstances that I understand and believe there isn't a single person in this room that would want to see that happen. So thank you so much for having me and allowing me to be part of this important conference. Thank you.
हैं इसको यहाँ से ले लीजिए कितने पड़े हैं टेबल वो यहाँ से ले लें पड़े हुए हैं ज़्यादा जाहिर पड़े हुए हैं आई ओके थैंक यू
Very nice chicken.
थैंक यू
सबका हबीब